My fellow Americans, I come to you with some bad news. It seems that the CBIF virus is spreading much faster than anticipated. It's huge. Basically, we got some bad hombres running around going crazy because of some shiitake mushroom that they had. And if we don't stop it, we're all gonna die. But don't worry, I have people working on this. The best people. No one has better people than I do. At 4 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, I will be declaring a state of martial law. Be careful. Don't kill anyone, and God bless America.
No, my family. I must do something. If you need anything, try the neighbor's house. I don't have anything here.
Don't pepper spray me, dude. Ah! Dude, what are you doing? I'm not here for your stuff. I'm Lieutenant Mitochondria, but some people call me Officer Powerhouse. And I just have a few questions.
I'm not sick. You can't take me.
I wasn't planning on it. Do you have any relation to Sven Kelvin?
Oh, yeah.
I understand you were roommates in college?
Yeah, is there a problem?
Yes.
Okay.
We believe that he may be patient 0.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, come inside. We can talk more about this. Alright, you can sit down right there.
So, how do you guys know each other?
So me and him used to be really good friends until he moved to Boston to be his girlfriend.
Yes, we know that. Now, when was the last time you saw him?
Back in June, we got together and had a night out. To be honest, I don't really remember much and it was a long time ago, but I can try.
Dude, bro, do you remember when we were in, like, Aruba and we saw that, like, sea urchin thing? Oh, man, that was crazy.
Yeah, the diving guide was laughing his butt off behind his mask and he didn't say a thing.
Oh, God, and it wasn't until we got back to shore until, we found out what it was.
Oh, God, I spent an hour in the shower trying to wash it off. Couldn't even look at my girlfriend the same in the eyes anymore.
Oh, man, yeah,
Rest
that
of
was
the
the
days.
times.
That was gross.
Whoa, what's that?
What is that thing? It looks nasty.
Man, it's kind of tasty. Only one way to find out, eh?
Bro, you're tripping, dude. I wouldn't do that.
Dude, no. I saw this thing on BuzzFeed. It's totally fine.
I'm not cleaning up your puke if you eat that.
Whatever, bottoms up.
Oh, that's nasty, dude. Oh, it's like colorful. So how does it work exactly?
Well, it starts in 4 stages.
According to text with his wife, he had already begun to enter stage 1. When he woke up the next day, he was short of breath, had a headache, and noticed a small rash on his neck, which he sent a Snapchat to his wife. By the time he arrived at JFK International, he had entered stage 2. Vestibular imbalance, hot flashes, pounding headache. At this point, he was contagious. Within the next week, his friends in New York started to notice his behavior characteristics of stage 3. Although he was social before, he started to talk very quickly, asking them to hang out and ate lunch in public places. In fact, we have record of him trying to sneak into a concert for a band he never liked. The nerve cells damaged by the parasite caused him to crave stimulation, as the nerves had difficulty firing. We now know that the fungus had implanted itself in the amygdala, where it releases cytotoxic components unless he was around people, giving him a headache whenever he was isolated. This is where things get interesting. The next Friday, he didn't show up to work due to his symptoms. All we have is a police report of a homeless crazy man collapsing in a subway station 3 days later. He was covered in fungal growth.
Damn, I thought he just went missing. What have you guys been doing to fix this? That's your job, isn't it?
Don't worry, we have the best immunologist money can buy. Dr. Hussein?
Stop bothering me. I'm doing important research.
So this was the man I was telling you about. He has a relation to patient zero.
Oh. Well, hello there. I'm Samir Hussein, lead microbiologist at the CDC.
Who put this guy in charge?
Don't worry about it. He knows what he's doing. Just ask him about his work.
So, what can you tell me about the CBIF outbreak and like what happened to my friend?
Well,
to begin, let me describe stage 1 of this disease. So, first of all, the fungus has to be inhaled or ingested through the mouth or the pharynx. And then after that, it bypasses the epiglottis and infiltrates your trachea, through which it goes into your lungs and basically implants there. Now, it does this because the fungus uses aerobic respiration, so it needs a source of oxygen. And what's a better source of oxygen than the lungs, where you have alveoli which actively exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. So the lungs are usually coated in phlegm, a mucus material that has lysosomes, which basically breaks down bacterial cell walls. However, fungal cell walls are quite different, in that they are mainly comprised of chitin. So the lysosomes and phlegm have really a minuscule effect. Now, furthermore, eosinophils similarly are quite ineffective because they would typically be effective in getting rid of cell walls that contain cellulose. But the fungus has chitin, so again, it is quite ineffective. Okay, so the fungus at this point has really gained enough energy it needs to migrate up to the brain via brainstem. And so as it does this, it begins to release a low dosage of cytotoxins. Now this is what contributes to significant headache that the patients feel at this stage. Now these cytotoxins at later stages influence behavior. So as for the immune response, as the fungus travels up the spinal cord, body-specific immune response begins to attack it. However, because the fungus is so large and rapidly replicating, cell-mediated and humoral responses do very little to attack it, because it takes so long to build up this memory. So very rarely does the human body encounter fungal infection. So it's not very well conditioned to attack. It is capable of doing so, but by the time it has built up the memory by doing cell-mediated response, the fungus is infiltrated far too deep into the brain for it to really even matter. So even though it's not very pertinent to our fungus, I still think it's very important to understand the basics of humoral and cell-mediated responses. Now, so for humoral responses, B cells have surface receptors which bind to antigens. And after doing so, via endocytosis, they take it in, and then after that, they display epitopes in MHC protein molecules. Now, after doing this, this alerts helper T cells to come and basically bind to the receptors on the B cell. And by doing this, the helper T cell releases cytokines into the B cell, and this basically alerts it to replicate. And so the B cell replicates in huge amounts and creates plasma bodies, which basically produces more antibodies to get rid of the infection. Now on to cell-mediated response. So cytotoxic T cells basically recognize antigens displayed on MHC2 molecules displayed on the surface of infected cells. Now this is essentially a way of saying for the cell, hey, I'm infected, please kill me so that I can't hurt the other cells. So the cytotoxic cell does that. Via transduction pathways, it basically tells the infected cell to undergo programmed death or apoptosis. And so the infected cell dies so that the infection can't spread to other cells. Okay, so past the spinal cord, the fungus starts to colonize in the voluntary parts of your brain, primarily to your motor cortex. And it only affects your voluntary movements such as walking and talking, while keeping your vital involuntary tasks untouched, such as breathing and your heartbeat. So the fungus's main food source are the nutrient-rich glial support cells, which are basically cells that provide support and carry nutrients to the neurons so that they can function and establish their resting potentials. So once it gets access to these, it ramps up spore production in the patient's lungs. Now, this decreases function in areas where it colonizes. Specifically, it embeds itself in the amygdala, which is basically the social center of your brain. So somehow it's able to tell from your amygdala when you are around people. In general, it picks up hyperpolarization and depolarization patterns, and through these, it's able to tell if you're near people or not. So when it notices this, when the fungus knows that you're around people, it slows the production of its cytotoxins, effectively conditioning you to be around people. So at this point, no one is really able to fight off the infection without the assistance of external aid, including drugs or other vectors. So after a few days after stage 3, the patient begins to lose a sense of themselves because of damage to significant portions of the brain. And this affects higher level thinking. Because a lot of thought processes and thinking requires the activation of certain neural pathways, the blockage of these caused by the fungus basically disrupts all thinking. And as a result, the patient enters a dissociative fugue state in which speech is unintelligible and the patient is basically a maniac.
There's still one thing that I cannot figure out. This
Wait.
graph.
Wait, I think, isn't it just this?
How could I have been so careless? How could I have been so blind? The dimensionality of the system of the complex proteins diagrammatically increasing components using the inverse cosecant of the angle of Dragon Ball Z.
The Lance value, it's
Over 9,000!
English, please.
You ignorant peasant. Competition. The competitive exclusion principle. It's so clear.
Mr. President, we have the vaccine. That's right, we don't have to build the wall anymore. Okay, you see, I applied the competitive exclusion principle. Okay, the competitive exclusion principle states that two species that use the same resource cannot stably coexist. Therefore, if an organism that uses CBIF's resources, it could outcompete and destroy the parasite. And through genetic engineering, I created one, a non-virulent strand of CBIF. Okay? Once somebody is infected with this friendly strand, it implants itself in the lungs, much like regular CBF, but it never makes the jump to the spinal cord, so it does not ever affect the brain or release any kind of cytotoxins. It just sits dormant in the lungs. Therefore, if someone carrying the non-virulent strand, as represented here, comes into contact with the virulent strand, here, the virulent strand will not take root because it does not have access to the bottom of the lungs. The virulent strand cannot jump from the lungs to the spinal cord. Also, if the friendly fungus takes root after someone's already affected, it simply blocks that organism's access to oxygen, killing the virulent CBIF fungus. Even better, this non-virulent strand, because it is based off of CBIF, is still contagious and it can help cure and vaccinate others. So it is, in effect, a contagious vaccine.
Did you change ethnicities, Dr. Hussein?
Good. No, I Chinese. I spent a lot of time in the lab, and now I'm white.
Wait, but doesn't that mean the non-virulent strand will still affect respiratory function?
It does, but I engineered the friendly strain to be susceptible to a certain chemical. Once this pandemic is over, you can simply breathe in this chemical, and the friendly fungus is eliminated. People will be short of breath until then, but it's better than nothing. My only question is, how are we going to deliver it?
Don't worry about that. That's my job. And I think I already have an idea. If the friendly strain of CBIF is contagious and travels through airborne spores, then if we release it through the air to a highly populated area, it should infect lots of people and then spread from there. With a delivery system as effective as this, and if we use crop dusters to distribute the non-virulent cure, we could have this thing beat by Christmas.
This is amazing!
Now listen closely. Here's a little lesson in trickery. This is going down in history. If you wanna be a villain #1, you have to chase a superhero on the run. Just follow my moves and sneak around. Be careful not to make a sound. No, don't touch that.